Hello! This weekend I went to two of the Farnworth 2022 competitions in the UK. This was a series competition, which means that you can only compete in one of the four competitions being hosted. I was competing on Sunday, but I showed up on Saturday as well just to help out with judging and scrambling. The whole series was sponsored by GAN, who provided cube covers and freebies for the comp, which I'll talk about more about later. Let's start in some kind of chronological order. So Friday. There was a few of us staying in an Airbnb together, but on Friday afternoon, no one else had arrived except for me and Patrick Dwyer. Do you know Robert Yao? If not, maybe you've heard of the Yao method for 4x4? Well, Robert Yao is who the method is named after. So we knew that the Saturday competition would be Robert Yao's 100th competition. Our plan was to make some chocolate fudge as a secret celebration gift. The place we were staying didn't have any baking trays, so we crafted some out of tin foil, and it was fairly successful actually. And after we made that, we headed to the pub in the evening, of course, while we waited for it to set. We didn't stay up too late though, because we were staying with James Molloy, one of the delegates, who offered us a lift in the morning, and he needed to get to the venue early, so we were there to help with the setup. It was a nice setup on the solving stations, because normally there's two people solving on each desk, but at Farnworth we had exam-style tables, so it was one solving station per table. The scrambles coming from the centre of the room made it easier to get cubes to competitors at the ends of the room faster, compared to other comps where some competitors are at the opposite side of the room from the scrambling stations. The space between the left and right sides of the room also meant it was easy to get between the front and back rows of solving stations. So the venue itself was pretty big, especially for the number of people coming on the Saturday. Since the Saturday events were all big cubes and blind, that day didn't appeal to as many cubers who were signing up to the Farnworth comp. In the end, there were only 25 people registered out of a total of 125 slots on the Saturday. It was also kind of cold in the venue, which I thought was due to us not having many people, but apparently the venue staff just forgot to turn on the heating for us. So, in a way, the low number of competitors was good as the comp was able to run more smoothly and the organisers were able to add a longer cumulative time limit for 4 blind and 5 blind solves, which everyone agreed was a good idea. A small number of competitors also meant it was easy to keep the volume down during blind events. We didn't have to shush anyone because almost everyone in the room was actually competing. The big posters at the front of the room were part of the GAN sponsorship. And also as part of the GAN sponsorship, we were given some cube covers. But there was an Irish competition at the same weekend, and it seemed like they needed the cube covers more than we did. I tried to write the number 100 in Rollo's, but it's not very legible. He figured it out though. He actually saw the fudge before he was supposed to, but the 100 was so illegible that he didn't even realize it was for him until we presented it to him later. I know I mentioned the GAN freebies, but you will not believe the things they were giving away. I was expecting maybe a cube for people who come first, or like podium in each event. Or if there's something for everyone, maybe it'll be like a keyring cube, or like a single one of those GAN mosaic cubes. But no, they actually went way above and beyond, and every single competitor was able to pick up their own cube. The GAN 2x2, GAN I, and GAN 11M Pro were probably the most popular cubes to be picked. So in order to give out the cubes in a fair way, the organisers randomised the list of competitors and called them out one by one to collect their preferred cube. I was allowed to take my cube on the first day since I was helping out, and I chose the GAN I. I do own the Geica Bluetooth cube, but it's really hard to turn one-handed, so I'm really enjoying the GAN I now as it's much lighter to turn. We had some classic British spring weather, with Callum dancing in the rain 1 minute. Yep. And Duke arriving to a blue sky literally 5 minutes later. And I did only mention the weather so I could include this clip of Callum dancing. So, on to the actual events of the day. We had 4x4, 5x5, 6x6, 7x7, 3 blind, 4 blind, and 5 blind. For 4x4, Rob took first place with a 31.21 average. Callum Hales Jepp in second with a 39.02 average. And Marcus Sue came in third. Rob also won 5x5 with a sub 1 minute average and a large lead over Daniel Evans and Chris Morris, who took second and third place respectively. 6x6 had a similar podium, with Rob getting a sub 2 minute average, closely followed by Daniel Evans and Callum Hales Jepp. And in 7x7, Daniel Evans took the lead from Rob, getting first place. Rob was in second and Ji Chen took third place. Both Daniel and Rob achieved sub 3 minute averages. So, on to the blind events. Sadly, George Tudor and Harry Owen got no blind successes in the first round, so they were knocked out of the remaining rounds. After that, though, every other competitor got at least one success in each round. The competition was tight in the finals, with Ben Stokes winning by less than 0.2 seconds over Chris Morris, who took second place. Meng Fei Shen wasn't far behind either, with a fastest time of 26.60 seconds. She was also the only person in the finals to achieve a mean of 3. 4 and 5 blind were interesting. Both events were held at the same time, with most competitors attempting both events. So how did we do it? The scorecards for each competitor were stacked on top of one another, and the scramblers had to have both sets of scrambles available at once. When the competitor decided to change from 4x4 to 5x5 or vice versa, they would just return the cube that they wanted to solve next. So, us scramblers had to make sure not to send out a 5x5 with a 4 blind scorecard, for example. There were no issues though in practice, except for the event taking quite a long time and the non-competitors getting bored. The 4 blind podium had Ezra in first place, followed by William Wright and Callum Hales Jepp. Alistair Miller was the only competitor to achieve a mean, which is very impressive in 4 blind, well done. In 5 blind, Ezra won again, setting both single and mean Swiss records, both being significantly under 7 minutes. This is his second 5 blind mean and 6th 5 blind single success in a row. Currently the record for most 5 blind successes in a row is 8, held by Callum Hales Jepp, but also drawn by some others. I mentioned Callum Hales Jepp because he's at this competition. So Ezra only needs 2 more to draw for first place, or another mean of 3 to be clear of the competition and kick everyone else into second. This competition, though, Callum Hales Jepp took second place in 5 blind, also achieving a 5 blind mean, and Nevins took third place. They were the only 3 competitors to achieve a success, and it's funny that 2 of them achieved a mean in friggin' 5 blind. Well done, guys. So I helped scramble in 4 and 5 blind, took a break during it, and headed out into the corridor for a chat and interview with Jacob Chambers.
I know it was after Western Supermare 2018. Because I DNF'd my average value on Rubik's Comork, and I was thinking, I want to try my Lingau Comork and see if I can turn better on this. And at the same time, one of my other friends was also wanting to try and get into Comork, and they shared a video for James Malloy's pin order. And I learned this pin order and just started practicing, and then didn't stop practicing. I thought I was going to get average like 8 or something, then stop practicing, but then I just didn't stop. I got it the other day, it's 2.98. So I think it might be the first ever sub 3 average, I'm not sure. Ed Scully, he's getting really fast now, so look out for him at Wakefield. And he's a cool guy as well.
One parent was in the venue, and I happened to have a Rubik's Cube solution guide that Daniel Evans had given me earlier in the competition. So I gave it to the parent, and he seemed bored enough to actually try it. There was a few of us there to help him when he got stuck, and in the end he solved it. And he went on to solve it a few more times, maybe trying to get faster, so perhaps we'll see him competing next time. Saturday night. Saturday evening, we went to Tesco, bought dinner, and went to the Airbnb to do a cubing centurion. That is a cubing challenge for adults which involves alcohol. It certainly has no effect on performance in competitions the day after. So we set off bright and early. Although we didn't have to be there for setup, Duke still wanted to get there early to guarantee a table, which turned out to be a good idea. We arrived 30 minutes before the introduction to competing, so I didn't expect there to be a queue for registration. But there was plenty of tables taken already. It would only get more and more full though, which was a crazy contrast to the empty hall of the previous day. More tables had been moved into the venue, and it felt warmer, thanks to the venue staff who helped based on our comments the previous day. On to some of the events of the day. 3x3. I didn't get any personal records in 3x3. I'd say earlier in the day my performance was pretty normal for me, getting a low 13 average, but later in the day my averages got slower as I was seriously struggling to look ahead. Actually, my last solve of the day was one of the fastest because I overheard someone behind me complaining that it was too late in the day to turn fast, and that reminded me to slow down my turning, which resulted in a faster time. The winner of 3x3, and therefore the entire competition, was Leo Palfrey with a 9.10 average, followed by Nicholas Archer and Tao Yu. The second event of the day was 2x2. This went okay for me. I was hoping to beat my PR average of 4.75, but I didn't even break sub 5. I'll be practicing 2x2 more before my next comp as well though, so I'll have another shot to beat it then. My fastest 2x2 solve of the competition was, well, out of the camera shot. So if you're a judge, please avoid doing this. I mean, at least this judge got everything else right, like the removal of the cover from the puzzle, but yeah. I might make a video guide on how to be a good judge since there's been a boom of new competitors lately, and since I don't have the competing experience, I think that a video might be helpful. After 2x2 we had Pyraminx. If you're noticing that all of the events so far are short and fast, it's intentional. All of the big and blind events were on the Saturday, and all of the short and fast events are on the Sunday. So Pyraminx, I can't believe I broke my personal record average. It wasn't by much though, but still. As you may remember, at Wismo I used a method I'd just learned and half forgot. Well, at Farnworth I used keyhole for the cases I didn't know, and one flip and Nutella for the cases I did. So that was a good strategy. Lunchtime. Just like on Saturday, the GAN cubes were distributed randomly, through calling people up to take their selection of cubes. This ran surprisingly smoothly considering the number of people in the venue. So I spoke to one first-time competitor about the cube she picked. This competition is sponsored by GAN, so you have received a cube.
I know. It's really exciting. Yeah, do not own one of these.
Cool.
And it was free.
Yep.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
What made you pick this cube in particular?
There was only 3 left, so I thought that's probably quite good.
Since we were running behind schedule by the time it came to lunch, there wasn't really time to go out and get food, so we ordered some lunch online. When I was packing, I made a list of cubes to pack, and I mistakenly packed my square one instead of my scube. I think the cubing alliteration confuses me, like how half the competitions in the UK this year have begun with the letter W. But yeah, I had to borrow different people's scubes to compete. In the first round, I borrowed Greg Simmons' scube. Greg's a great guy, and he also gave me some biscuits. So if you're watching this, thanks Greg! And in the second round, I used a scube I was able to borrow from a young person whose name I sadly can't remember. He judged me in a previous round, and he was probably my best judge all day. Wow, not good. 7.444. Yeah. He did everything right, like taking the cube cover off at the right time, but what really set him apart was his positive attitude.
You made the cutoff easily?
Even when he wasn't competing, you could just tell he was really happy to be at the comp. And by the time he was judging me, I was pretty tired and getting a bit fed up, but he really lifted my mood. So yeah, my scube results. I have no major comment because I still haven't practiced cube much, but I got a PR single on a lucky scramble in the second round. Clock. For clock, I decided to use the regular flip method. I have not practiced clock, but I still expected that I'd do better than last time, as last time I basically squandered my inspection time trying to memo no flip, only to run out of time, meaning I couldn't use no flip. So I had to then go into a regular flipping solve, having had no inspection. This time I didn't even attempt no flip. I gave myself the inspection time needed to do well with the flipping method, and I got myself some averages. Overall it went well, but the round itself went very slowly as all the clock solvers were in one group, so this left about 2 people in the entire room who could even scramble clock, and they were not very fast at scrambling, so the scrambles came out slowly. One of my solves was a misscramble where the back cross was already solved. This likely meant the scrambler forgot to flip the clock during the scramble. Even with that scramble, I didn't manage to get a sub 10, which is embarrassing. But since I suspected it was a misscramble, I told the delegate and I got the proper scramble later. I didn't feel bad about sending that one back, but I did need to get an extra on one of my other solves, where a runner started talking to me mid-solve, asking me to do something. So yeah, if you're a judge or a runner, don't talk to competitors when they're solving. It threw me right off because I had to check what they were asking me to do. But the reason I felt bad about returning it was that I knew they were struggling with the scrambling, and now they had to do another scramble that they wouldn't have had to do otherwise. As I expected though, I got PRs in average and single for clock. And the podium for clock was Jacob Chambers in first place, Patrick Dwyer in second place, earning his first ever podium, and Greg Simmons in third place. Alright, the final event of the day was one-handed. Well, really the final event was the 3x3 finals, but one-handed was the last event to have its first round. And the first round was slow for me, with a 21.4 seconds average. I was disappointed, but I knew I could redeem myself in the final round. And the final round was intense. I've only really felt pressure or stress at a competition once before. That was in a comp where I made it to 3x3 finals. In that competition, the format for finals was like a head-to-head, or maybe it was where one person was competing at the time. I don't even remember because all I remember is everyone was watching me and I couldn't solve for cookies. But at Farnworth, no one was watching me except myself and I guess my judge. But what was stressful was that this comp had very few fast one-handed solvers compared to most UK comps, meaning I actually had a chance to get a podium. If this went well, it would be my first podium ever. The person to beat for me was Tao Yu, who I know is faster than me. If I did well and he was a bit unlucky though, there was a real chance for me to get the podium. So the first solve was okay, despite my nerves, with a 19-second solve. Then I got a 17-second solve. I expected that would be the fastest of the average, but sometimes I get sub-18 averages at home, so I was hoping for another 17-second solve. And the very next solve was another 17. At this point, I was freaking out. Imagine if I got a sub-18 average in comp. The nerves made me get so nervous and start shaking and everything. So for the fourth solve, I could not control my cube. It was a friggin' 27-second solve. I know that in competitions, the slowest and fastest solve don't count towards your average, so everything could still be okay, as long as this final solve was fast. Say, if it was 18, that would give me an 18-second average, which would be respectable and make me very happy, and maybe it would get me the podium. But sadly, I didn't come down enough for the final solve. It went much better than the 27-second solve, but I was still having trouble controlling the cube properly, resulting in a 21-second solve. That set my average at 19.35, which still beat my PR average by over half a second, But because I knew it could have been faster if the nerves hadn't struck me, I was pretty disappointed. So in the end, I took 4th place, with Tao getting 3rd place with a 17.08 average, Jacob Chambers taking 2nd with a 16.7 average, and Nicholas Archer winning with a 12.48 average. Well done, everyone. And sadly, Tao had to leave a bit early for his train, so he took his medal and left before the awards ceremony. So, aren't you glad I left the most intense part of the comp until last? It was actually a total coincidence. But yeah, okay, the awards ceremony happened and most people went home. But of course, when a competition is over, some people need to stay to return the hall to its natural state. I wasn't due to leave for a little while, so I stuck around to help out. And film. We packed the stack mats away, stacked all the chairs, moved all the tables, and got rid of all the stray litter that was left behind. Everyone running these competitions and the entire World Cube Association of volunteers, nobody gets paid, and your registration fee is only used to hire venues and replace broken stack mat timers and stuff like that. And I hope that parts of this video have shown the kind of extra work they put in to make competitions possible for everyone. So, if you like this video, please like it and consider subscribing. Upcoming competitions in the UK that still have registration spots are Wakefield Spring, near Leeds, on May the 7th and 8th. Registration's already open and I'll be going. Chester Spring in the West Midlands on May the 14th and 15th. Registration already open. And finally, Glasgow Open up in Scotland, May the 28th and 29th. Registration is also already open.